Let's cheers and get this started.
So, cheers.
To excellence.
To excellence. Cheers. Well, welcome everybody to the inaugural Casting Classics. We're sitting here with the lovely Alessandra Rivera. What is a proper word for hat maker?
Milliner.
I can't pronounce that, so I'm going to let her rock with it.
I am a milliner.
Lovely. So we are here at Little Rebel in New York City, and we are focusing on creativity and artisanalship. And you make some lovely, lovely hats.
Thank you very much.
It's a profession that's been going on for many, many of years, correct?
Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds of years.
Excellent. So by my research, and I did way too much on it, I traced it back to like the Byzantine Empire.
Yes.
Right? So what's your history of hats? Like how do you see what got you into this? What made you like you have to be passionate for what you do, right?
Yeah.
So where did your passion for hats come from?
I think it started from a point of disdain, actually. My mother used to love dressing me up as a child, and no outfit was ever complete without a hat. So I was like the queen of the berets as a child.
Amazing.
And I grew into like the Indiana Jones hats as I would go fishing with my father, and just always had something on top of my head. And out of that, it just became kind of like almost like a comfort blanket, like a feeling of like secureness and security for me as a child. And like into adulthood, I was working on accessories and jewelry and design, and it just came back and made sense. You know, why not hats?
Amazing.
So.
And let's scale back a little bit too. Where's home for you? Where did you?
I was born and raised in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, in a small town called New Hope.
No way.
Yeah.
I love New Hope.
Yeah, it's a very fun, quirky, very inclusive town and area.
Yep.
It's like an artist commune. We host Miss Gay PA.
You have all the scarecrows going on right now, right?
A lot of scarecrow festivals. Big on Halloween. A lot of history. William Penn's house is on the corner of the block I grew up on, so Pennsylvania is named after William Penn.
Nice little fun fact there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So a lot of history. George Washington crossed the Delaware 5 minutes from where I grew up, so I think I've always been interested in historical things, and whether it's architecture, design, fashion, film.
That's awesome.
Whatnot. So.
I'm a history guy as well. I'm a big World War II guy. I will deep dive into that, and I love Vietnam. But as you trace back headwear as well, military has a strong piece of it, right? Even back down to Napoleon with a monstrous Napoleon hat, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of signifiers for the importance of your position, just to kind of sustain where you are, and to showcase who you are, status-wise to other people, whether it's military or amongst society.
And then I believe it's, if you trace it back, good old New York City, I hope you guys are picking up those fire engines coming on by. But back in the Revolutionary War, I understand the militias would aim at certain style of hats because they knew they were of higher value, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they gave them a perfect sniper reference point, based on outfit and cockiness. So
that's amazing. And it's funny, like going out there, going to New Hope, I love. It's my boxing coach, actually. His family's still out there, which is awesome.
Yeah,
he goes out there
got
all
a lot
the
of
time.
everything. So I think I owe a lot of my creativity to where I'm from and how my parents raised me. And
definitely
it's a very special, creative place to be from. I didn't think of it much when I was a child, but I think now in like my 30s, I'm definitely very cognizant of how much that developed my creative energy.
Yeah. So now, were you always a creator? Was it always like, did you like create your own dolls? You didn't buy anything? Were you always creating things when you were younger?
Yeah, I was creating clothespin dolls when I was a child. I always kind of knew I was going to have some form of a business. I love being at the beach. I'm like a water child, so even at the ocean and places like that, I would see all the girls and the guys like out with like their hand-woven bracelets that they're selling, and I'd go in with like $10 in my allowance, buy them all up, resell them for twice as much. Amazing. So they would be closed for the day, and I'd just open up shop with half their material and then make the rest of mine.
That's
great. I was like 8.
Put your little sprinkle on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Little young entrepreneur. Look at you.
Yeah, small start.
I love it.
Helped for the ice cream man.
Absolutely.
Good funds.
Absolutely. That's cool, man. And so now for Rebellion, you got into making hats.
Yeah.
And did you start out in Pennsylvania, or did you bring that to New York?
Yeah, I always knew I was going to work in design, so I went to Parsons for women's wear and fashion. So my main focus was women's wear and clothing. So I finished there. I interned, apprenticed under a lot of like really amazing designers, and worked in a lot more commercial venues of like my field in design. Worked for Alison Olivia a little while, Haute Hippie, Susanna Monaco. Who else? Salima. She's an optician by trade, but she got me started in hats.
Amazing.
Yeah, but amongst that, I also ended up working for Albert Baz of Lanvin, French designer, the creative head of Lanvin, which was the oldest couture house in the world, older than Chanel, older than Dior, Givenchy, deep roots in couture and things that are handmade, made well, made to last, and very expensive. The French don't make things cheaply,
absolutely.
so I do respect and admire a lot of that detail and skill set. And being on a fly on the wall, working with him was like a blessing.
I mean, yeah, so, being in a room with that type of creativity goes a long way.
Yeah, it's like being in a room with like the biggest idol you could imagine for any profession or field. Like, it's very grateful for that opportunity, and it lasted for many years. I was hired continually every year to do their market weeks with Milk Studios and the meat packing, and
that's
so
fun.
It was a nice way to grow and learn.
Awesome. And now you went to school, but were you classically trained in one specific thing? Like, were you classically trained in hats? Did you follow a certain road, or how did you just fall into it? How did you get into your passion and creativity for hats?
Yeah, I was trained in women's wear. I loved menswear as well, but I was trained in pattern making and illustration and pattern grading, and just learned the whole process of women's wear. But I was more focused and interested on costuming.
Okay.
Majority of the time, so most of the things I made were more avant-garde and not really 7th Avenue or dog walking friendly, or so like always in design school they're always saying, when you illustrate a project and you showcase it, where's your dog walking outfit, or like what's the lady gonna wear or the guy gonna wear when he's walking his dog down 5th Avenue? And in my head I just thought it was like a very absurd concept of, what do you wear while walking your dog?
I'm blown away right now because I've seen so many like sketches of people walking their dog with it, and now I know why.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's a thing.
Oh, jeez, that's amazing.
Yeah, but for me, I was more focused on costume and things that like surpass the norm and a little more avant-garde and interesting and like kind of push boundaries. And I rather do more and pull back and just throw it all at the wall and see what sticks. So
that's awesome.
I don't like to play it safe for design, but I like things that last for sure.
And you got to do things right for things that last, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a good way to look at it. So now you say classically trained in women's style and patterns and whatnot. So I know in culinary school they start you out with making omelets, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to start. You got to make a good omelet before you make up to anything else. What's the first thing that you make when you're starting to get into making women's clothes?
Oh, it's funny. It's the most simplest thing, as you're saying with an omelet. It's called the circle skirt, and you just do a flat pattern, and you have to. It's basically like a 1950s poodle skirt that has like this type of motion when you turn, and it is boring. You put pockets on it, and if you can't make that, you basically fail out your freshman year, and then you have to switch to another major, which a lot of people did, but.
I couldn't make a poodle skirt, so.
Okay. Well, no need for one yet, unless it's Halloween. So.
Touche. Now, with your going more towards a costume route, does that come into your background of enjoying history and where you're from? Because I know there's a lot of like plays out there and people playing out certain scenes in history. So is that where that comes from?
Yeah, I probably. Maybe subconsciously, yes. So my hometown had the first playhouse in North America, the Bucks County Playhouse. Like Cary Grant was there, Judy Garland. We've had a lot of really amazing artists and famous actors from history perform there. And yeah, I think I've always been drawn to history and avant-garde things. So it's no surprise to me that I would much rather see something much more challenging and interesting as like a design or a creative challenge or project than just a t-shirt and jeans.
Yes.
I do love those. Classic staple. but I think it's nice to add a hat to it.
Yeah, you've been wearing New York-based restaurant T-shirts now.
Yes.
Right? That's been your thing.
Yeah, my thing has been the pandemic T-shirts of restaurants and bars, and I have quite a collection from the Flower Shop through Dodecki in Williamsburg and across the board.
Drinking local, supporting local.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Totally.
So I always say there's no such thing as bad whiskey. There's just some whiskey that's much better than others, right?
I love that.
Yeah. There's a time and there's a place for everything. And for something else that we're doing with Glenrothes is the chef pairing series, and we kicked it off with pizza. So I feel the same way.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as bad pizza. Like we were talking about, like you're working 15 hours a day, right? You have your fingers are bleeding from stitching hats to whatnot. That slice of Domino's is going to taste just like the top pizza in the
there's
world.
Probably like thousands of shops in New York, but honestly, after a long day of work,
it serves its purpose.
you're just grateful to have sustenance.
Exactly.
And it's like you work hard for something, you enjoy it. So.
Exactly. But when you really want to take that deeper look into it, you want to enjoy it, you want to seek it out, you have your certain spots in the city to go to, and just like you have your certain whiskeys that you go to, right? So hopefully Glenrothes will be that sought after whiskey that like, this is something that was earned that I'm going to enjoy and sit back, right? So I feel that your hats are very similar to that. Every hat could serve its purpose, right? A hat is for cover, to protect you, right? It's, I forgot the name of the, you said there's someone in your neighborhood that wears the one that just goes around your head with the point. I think it's an Asian-based hat.
The tri-corner. Are you talking about the tri-corner hat?
The Asian-based hat.
Oh, it's it's a paddy hat. It's for being in the fields while you're collecting rice.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's a field hat. So, it's a woven hat. It's wide for sun. It's mainly protection, like base. It's just really just supposed to cover your shoulders and be like full sun protection all around.
And it's built to protect you.
Yeah.
Right? That's what hats are for. But then you go into it, it's built for fashion.
Yeah.
So any hat can protect you, right? But
Now
when you start looking into it, you like, maybe I want a hat to protect me, but I also want to look really good in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where does that transition happen in history? Where does it come to a point where like
it's aesthetics,
it's protection as opposed to I'm gonna make this look good?
Yeah, I actually what I know about Stetson, who kind of really brought hats to the forefront of either being worn for utilitarian purposes or being the signifier of you've arrived, status-wise, depending on whatever position you are. There's varying places of where that would lay, but with that, it's a beautiful mixture of a few different places in history.
Got it.
But I would say that Stetson definitely brought it to the forefront in American culture, at least. Not style originally. It was originally, he had trained under his father. He's actually from New Jersey. The creator.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, the creator of Stetson was from New Jersey, and
I just pictured a big old Texan.
Right. Well, their factories are now based in Texas, but they had quite a few factories all around the United States. And what I know from what they originally had done was he had moved to the Wild West to dry his lungs from tuberculosis. And along the way, he was looking to prospect gold and, get on the 49 rush with like Levi Strauss and all these other big designers and companies, or men that ended up becoming these big designers and companies. But he originally started as sustenance and sustaining, and people were cold and their clothing wasn't that warm from the East Coast going to the Midwest and through the Rockies. So he took the skill set that his father had taught him on the East Coast of how to make hats. His father taught him, but a small scale business. And he started felting blankets, jackets, pants, literally anything he could out of any skin that they could find. Taught the process to a lot of people, and they just built up enough stuff so they could stay warm, survive the winter, wagon-wise across, the West.
Amazing.
So it started there, and then I think style-wise it changed eventually. Probably around the 50s, 60s, they realized we have something that's a signifier of of like excellence, of quality, and cowboys were endorsing it. Western movies were starting to pick up in history around that time, so you get all the John Wayne, reference points, James Dean, Reagan.
Yep.
We had a lot of historical like figures in California that really were pushing for the Stetson, and that became their hat.
That's so cool. It's fun how that works out.
They really brought it from a rugged, rustic, almost very like not even blue collar, just like worker. Yeah.
I think
so. It came from that.
History, everyone was blue collar. Like blue collar built the country, absolutely.
Or even if you're just like on the plains and just like riding and roaming as a cowboy and like being that free, it's like that was sought after in every way, and they translated that into hats that were more wearable.
And wasn't that the first name of the Stetson? Was the Plains or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So you've done your research.
A little bit. Yeah. It's it's really cool. And again, with Glenrothes, we say that you have to look beyond. You have to have a deeper perspective. You have to seek out what you're looking for. Yeah. And I love hats. I've always loved hats. I've always had a hat on me, whether it be a Yankee hat, whether it be a Mets hat. I always had cover on my head, And it's cool now finding out the history behind all this stuff. One of my favorite headwears of all time is Maximus's helmet in Cuddy. I told you this, and like that's where when it comes down to it in terms of like the history of armies and it's beautiful to see all this stuff and what it means and the purposes that it serves. It's durability, it's comfort, but it also has to serve a purpose, and it's just fun how you come in now and you see people just throwing a hat on their head and it's like, oh, it's fashionable, but there's a lot more that goes into that as well. And your popularity rose significantly when you were on a morning show showing that different head sizes and face shapes deserve different hats. So when was that, like, how could you describe?
It was a very exciting morning. That's for sure.
But how can you describe like looking at someone and showing them like what hat is best suited for them? And at what point in history was that discovered?
Well, so I'm not sure when people discovered what the best shape was for them.
When hats started becoming more fashionable, people started paying more attention.
Yeah. So at least not for the face shapes.
The face shapes, yes.
So. I've kind of just incorporated things I've learned along the way. I've had a lot of really helpful people within design, within fashion, even people that don't think that they've been instrumental into like me understanding anatomy or like that in context of design and what is more wearable. But in general, I'm very drawn to symmetry, and I think there's a lot of things that you find that balance in nature, sacred geometry along those lines. But within nature, there's a certain realm. So my general rule of thumb is whatever your face shape is, either from like your jawline or your eye socket down, you kind of want to reflect upward. And stay in those lines. So for me, I have a very narrow face, long, not too long, but I like taller hats generally. So I usually would wear something like a little bit taller, but I also like smaller, more tight brims. But like for instance, for you have a broad jawline, heart-shaped, boxed face, like a very long jaw, but like continual. So whatever you have here, you want to reflect up. So bold, you wouldn't want something that's tapered and narrow, because it only accentuate how strong your jawline is, which would stand forward.
And my chubby cheeks will just poke out.
Yeah, no, we don't.
I'm kidding with you.
Yeah, cheeks there. So I generally try to balance whatever is happening on the lower side of your face upward, over, almost like a mirrored lake. You want whatever is reflected on the top to balance with what you see on the water. Like
that's cool.
Perfect, beautiful balance of light, I think. That way, the hat's not wearing you, you're not wearing the hat. It's like the sweet spot. You have to find the sweet spot. And I think that's why it's important to have things that aren't always just like the first thing store bought, because not every hat is made for everyone. So to go in and say, oh, I've never found a hat that's like suited to me, it's like, well, yes, because you haven't had an experience where you've placed the time into having something made for you that will last, has longevity.
And be educated on it as well, on why you should wear this specific trim and why you shouldn't wear that.
Yeah, I think there's certain things that people do clothing-wise, accessories, more specifically in menswear with like your briefcase, your belt, like your wallet. Like men are more focused on things that last and longevity, whereas women may focus more on hitting a note of like time and a place, or like an experience. And you know, either way, you know, there's no wrong way of finding your place in design or what you like to wear and your personal taste and style. But personally for me, I think that I love things that are made to last. I collect and source and wear a lot of vintage. Like this is from the 60s.
Awesome.
You know, I took it in a bit and it's perfect. I love the idea of things that are tasteful, that you can't place it into a time period, a decade. It just transcends time and exists.
And
that goes into hats for me. And I think we go back to this.
Yeah, and that's why I tied like casting classes where we came up with the name. A classic is something that is ageless.
Yeah.
It looked just as good when it first became 1910, whatever you could say. Fits for right now, but will also fit when my daughter is going out and drinking in bars. You know, like timeless is key. And I think in terms of fashion as well, like every woman has her little black dress, right?
Absolutely.
When in doubt, you go little black
or
dress.
6, maybe 10.
you have,
maybe more.
The LBD goes a long way, but the accents you put with it is what really accentuates. I can't think of the word.
Brings it to life.
Thank you. I was trying to use a big word.
It's okay. We'll let accentuate
It's been a long day. But no, it's the accessories that really brings that to life.
Yeah, it emboldens your energy and your sense of style and your personal taste and preference.
1,000%, and that's why I love Louis Vuitton. Like you could have a little black dress on with black shoes that match it perfectly, but as you're walking away, those red bottoms stand out. You know, like it's. But then you have like your small little compliments, your makeup to go with it. But the traditional accent piece is that headwear. So if you could have something that really stands out with a lid, I think it's awesome. And I
agree. I think I try to wear a hat with things that really shouldn't wear hats all the time. Even if I'm wearing something that I'm like, this looks so sophisticated and great, I don't need a hat. I still, for my own self, you know.
I say the good Lord blessed me with great shoulders and terrible hair, so I'm forced to wear hats on a lot of occasions.
Great. Perfect customer. Come on by.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny because I was running around. I was doing a lot of things today, and I had a whole different outfit planned, and I was going to wear the hat with it. But the hat, I have a beautiful green hat that wasn't going to go with this look. I couldn't change, so no hat for me today. Otherwise, I would have been.
Yeah. I've seen you in some hats, so you get the pass for today.
Yeah, but no, it really does. And like, also if you're running out, right? I got a plain t-shirt on with a pair of jeans and like a pair of chucks. If I throw a fedora on with that, I go from not getting in the marquee to walking right in. You know, like whatever. It brings the outfit.
It definitely adds it's like the golden ticket.
Indeed.
It's an unspoken thing where you wear a tall hat or a big hat or something interesting that no one else has. It opens a lot of doors. Yeah. But actually, definitely in New York.
Facts. Definitely. But also people in New York will wear things that they shouldn't be wearing. And then it throws it off. But again, not doing their not doing their homework, not being educated on what you're wearing. I go back to Spider-Man with the kid. It's like they go into the party, the new one with it was the Marvel one. And he's like, oh, I love your hat. He goes, it's a confidence builder.
Yeah, it is though.
It
truly is.
How do you...
it's an energy storing thing too. It's for me, it's like safer. Like I don't do well when people just reach over in New York City to grab the hat, but it happens. But I think it's something that's special. It's like made for you, at least within my realm of what I do. It's something that's made for someone individually, one of a kind, and it's made to last. So it's giving character and life to somebody that already emboldens like all the qualities and traits that I'm trying to facilitate in creating a hat for them. So for each client or friend, honestly, at this point, that I make something for, it really brings out the things that they've shared with me personally, or you know, likewise, that make them them, and that's why their hat ends up getting complimented. It's more about the fact that it was made for them with their intent, and it was a collaboration. So
it's
made with someone else's integrity as well as mine. You know, so it's like a collaborative effort, which I love. I feel like I'm always able to like learn a new thing, either subject matter, new person, and it's special.
It is. And I went through the consultation process with you.
Yeah.
The hats.
Yeah.
So exciting.
We've got one on the way, and we will be diving into it more, and hopefully more of the process.
We'll have some footage on that as well. But you hear so many people like, oh, I love your hat, but I'm not a hat guy.
Yeah.
Or I'm not a hat girl. I could never pull that off. They would look so weird on me.
Yeah.
So prior to you creating the hat and getting them, sinking your teeth in them and getting them in your studio, how would you educate someone on how to be a hat person?
So I usually take a solid 30 seconds to a minute to just not say anything when somebody immediately says that to me, because they're looking for the first thing to be like, no, I still can't do it. So I'm like, okay, don't wear a hat.
Yeah.
You know, that's my first thing, is if you don't feel like you can wear one, don't wear one. But then I think most people are more drawn to the fact that I don't really push for it, because, you know, I think it's really something that should be something you want to do. It should be something that you're interested in or want to add to your day. Like, I love hats because at the end of you can walk out your door, have a great outfit on, and in my mind, it should be the last thing you think of. You just grab it off the shelf, throw it on, it completes whatever you have, really brings it to life.
Yep.
But with that, once I've given it a 30 to 60 second set, I say, well, you've never come in, you've never experienced a custom fit hat, something that was made with you in mind. Made to measure is very much like the French style of couture. It's really made for you. The Americanized version of it, within shoes, bags, accessories, and hats, it's not as expensive as a lot of the artisanal traditions of doing like a full dress that takes 8 months to make, maybe a year. It can take that much time for a hat if you have a wait list. I do, it's not 8 months, but it's up there. But it takes time. And it takes time because there's integrity involved. So I take energy and time to really think about what I'm creating before I create it and put it out there. Because as soon as it's out of my studio, it represents me and it reflects on me. And I also want to make sure that the people that I've met and engaged with that I enjoy also know that they can feel the amount of love that I put into the product for them, that's made for them. And for me, that's very important.
It's huge when it comes out to creating anything. And I think that is why this series is here, right?
Yeah.
It's because Glenrothes, you feel that passion. With Glenrothes, there's no public visitor center, right? There's no,
as you've said.
Yeah, there's no come and see what we're doing.
We're making whiskey.
I'm gonna make something really good, all right? And I'm gonna tell you how it is. And I love that. And again, whiskey takes time, whiskey takes effort, but at the end of the day, whiskey takes passion. And to make proper whiskey, it's not good because it's old. It's good because it stayed good.
Yeah.
You know, because it has good bones and started out right.
People put their intention into it and create it with intention.
And one of my favorite things that you said to me is that I'll never give someone something back. I'm never going to give you a bad product.
Yeah.
So even if you are asking me to do something that I don't agree with, you're not going to give them a bad product. Yeah. So how do you steer someone towards that? How do you steer someone that's like, oh, I want to do this? And you're looking at them like, that's going to be terrible. So how do you have the conversation?
I was never a C student, so I'm very OCD and detail oriented. So I think maybe I should be grateful it came very naturally. But it's a balance of trust. People explain to me what they're looking for, what they haven't had, what's happened in the past with what they haven't enjoyed, and I try to exemplify all of the great things that what they're getting from me will have, and add that to the process.
Now, when you're starting from the base, what's the base process of the hat? Like, what material are you using? Is it 100% felt? Are you using wool? If we go back to the history, horsehide was one of the best things to make because that was durable and that stood up to Father Time, right? But what's your base for it? What are you starting?
It varies. It really. I mean, today I think people are so across the board. It depends. You know, I make a lot of hats for resorts and resort wear, and people love to travel and love things that keep the sun out of their face while they're on vacation and enjoying. So I do a lot of straw hats as well. But within the felt realm, I work with rabbit fur, beaver fur, wool, alpaca. There's a whole array of different variations. But I'd say like the standard one that's a classic, at least if you're thinking about a men's hat, would be a beaver fur felt. It's heavyweight, durable, has a nice weight to it. Very involved for stretching and manipulating and molding. So the process of hat making requires a lot of steam and a lot of arm power, and I'm like 110 pounds wet. And I really, when I like make hats, I'm like, it takes a lot of energy and effort, and I don't really honestly go to the gym much because I just am like really stretching and molding and like really get in there, and like it's very similar to sculpture, but it's very much hand derivative and like hand manipulation and
a keen eye.
You have to really enjoy doing it because it's a lot of work.
Labor of love.
And the people that apprentice and train me and that I learn from always said that to me. They're like, you know, and like I know this like politically correct time, but they're like, this is man's work. Like you could do it, but like, do you really want to? And it took years for me to gain the trust to be taught this process that really was like a man's skill set and world of what they did. There weren't women making hats in these hat factories that's it, honestly, or like bigger companies in like the 20s on. It was a lot of probably be like 200 men on one floor stretching and pulling, and it was like a lot of tough work, like keeping things taut, pressing, like overly manipulating material. And I just really wanted to learn and do it, and I proved myself to the people that I apprenticed and learned from, and I'm very grateful for them and consider them New York family and family in general. And yeah, they gave me the opportunity because I wanted it, and I showed that I wanted it to continue to grow and learn with them. So.
Where does that passion come from? Why do you want to? Why, when everyone's saying like, it's man's work, you don't want to do this? What's the driving factor behind you saying, I'm going to do it anyway?
I mean, I could just say I'm like a difficult person.
I like that too. I respect it.
But no, I like a good challenge. I always do. And I think for me, it's like someone tells me I can't do something or I shouldn't bother. I'm like, why? You know, I'm curious. I think my mind has always been curious, and I seek to learn, and I want to continually learn throughout my life. And I find a lot of joy in learning other people's skill sets, whether it's within hats, like culinary, like archaeology, across the board, like literally anything. I enjoy learning, and I have a passion for it. So if something seems like a challenge, I don't see it as something I can't do. I see it as something I just don't know yet. And
I like that.
I think I've just always approached things in life like that. Like you don't know what you can handle or do as a human until you really take the time to give it a try. So I gave this a good shot. I think I'm doing okay.
I think you're
let's see how I go.
A good shot. It's doing very well, right?
Appreciate it.
And it ties back into looking beyond. And that's where, again, you have to seek out our whiskey. You have to seek out what you're going for. Like, if you like this, you might know, why do you like this? With your So you're going into looking beyond and being like your passion is telling me, don't tell me I can't do anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna prove you wrong, right? So now as you start getting into it and you realize that hats are what you want to really focus on, how do you dive right into it? What are the tools of hat making? Like to make whiskey, you need a single grain, you need to malt it, mill it down, throw it through a still, throw it into some oak, and you got whiskey. It sounds really easy on paper, but there's a lot
Each
of
step of that is
goes
like
into
tender
it.
loving care all day.
Exactly. So what are the tools of the trade? How does it all start? Where do you dig in? How do you find your technique of stretching things out? How do you find your molds? How do you do that?
So, I mean, it's a long lost trade. Whereas everyone loves whiskey, so who doesn't? So it's so
accurate.
Some of the tools still exist within my field, but they're far and few between and a little harder to find.
Thank you so much. I almost knocked them both over. That would have been awesome.
Appreciate it.
Salute.
All right, move on through.
To the penicillin now. I'll take that dead one if you want.
Salute, please.
Beautiful.
Nothing dead about it. It's still got some legs.
But you were saying like everyone loves whiskey, and there's been tools for the whiskey.
They all exist because people still love whiskey. People love drinking. They love the social aspects. They love just like the process. I think especially in New York,
by the way.
Yeah, that hits.
Brooke Smith, thank you very much.
Crushing. There's a lot of elements that are very similar with whiskey and hat making, but I think a lot of the tools of the trade within hat making have kind of been lost along the way and are redeveloping and resurfacing because hats are gaining popularity again. And it's funny, it's like this has only been 100 years, and we've gone from the peak of hat making, where in New York City we had Hat Makers Row, which was on 39th Street. It was the entire cross street of 39th Street, and there were about 5,000 factories. And from like 1920 through probably the 50s, 60s.
So pretty much every hat brand that was ever made went through that street.
A lot of Europe, like a lot of couture brands, a lot of Western companies, stuff that was mainly made for like out west, they all produced here. It was a nice hub between Europe, Asia, Eastern Europe, and here, and South America and Central America.
Why does it land in New York? Why does it land here?
This is it, baby.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
New York, that's why.
I love it.
Just cause.
Yeah.
It's New York. It's New York.
They had a hat guy.
Yeah, they got a guy. You got a guy, you got a guy. So, at least within hat making, there's a lot of tools and techniques and things that are involved in hat making, but they're very hard to acquire, very hard to find, unless you remake them, and it gets expensive. And if you're just starting and you're learning, it's not something that should be like disheartening. I think it's just something you should research and figure out how to do it, and for me it's like I had the passion to make hats and really wanted to do it, and I didn't see the barriers to entry of like a skill set and trade that's basically almost a lost art. It's revitalizing now, but when I started 12 years ago, it was not exactly like in its prime, so takes some effort.
Absolutely. And like you go into the history of hats, and like New York born and raised, and it's like old school mafia movies. You have the guy in the gangster hat, but for me, the world heavyweight champion for boxing used to mean a lot more.
Yeah.
And the world heavyweight champion would come on in and he had a dope hat on, So like the history of Madison Square Garden, you go back to boxing and you see the entire arena smoking cigars with hats on, and it's like, it was a staple. It wasn't a statement piece, it wasn't an ego, it wasn't something that, you can't leave your house without a hat, right?
Yeah.
So why did that change? Why did people stop wearing them?
Well, so I think this has happened a few times throughout history, but as of recently, it started Kennedy, for the most part. A sexy guy with great hair, you know, confidence. It was a different time period. Everyone prior had always worn a hat throughout history, and it signified different things. It signified that him not wearing a hat being inaugurated was the first president ever in the history of America to not be inaugurated wearing a hat.
How about that for a Jeopardy question?
So, yeah, I know this one. Absolutely. But that was the first one. And from there, people took note to that. They said, you know, we can be a little more free. We can be cool. Like, we don't need to be so formal. Our life doesn't have to be so constrained to these formalities of pleasantries. You know, we can just be. And I think that was also the beginning of like the hippie era as well, and you know, tapered into that as well, and it was a major shift. And you can see like the trajectory of like how these hat factories and larger brands that were solidified as like the staying place of America like closed. Those are huge industry businesses. Like the hat was the most expensive thing a man owned. And I only say men because in the 1950s, 60s, like men were the ones wearing hats. Women were wearing hats, but like not in the same way. Like smaller, lighter, like bonnet, sun protecting things.
The fedora that you wore as a male matched your suit perfectly.
Yeah.
Right? You had several of them, most likely, depending on your social status or whatever. But yeah, that's really cool. And it sounds from Kennedy, and from great hair.
Absolutely.
Makes you be even more jealous of people with great hair.
Right? So he just was like, the standard is great hair, great suit, no problem.
Speak well.
Which works. And you know what? As a hat maker, no offense to it. Not everyone needs a hat. You want a hat, you want a hat, you know?
But it also fits for you that the people that will seek out for your service are looking for something particular, and they understand what they're getting from you.
Absolutely.
And it's like not everyone needs a hat. You could wear a hat if you want to, but not everyone needs it. But if you really like hats and want it, you find someone like you. That can give you
find a guy.
I got a guy.
I got a guy. You got a guy. I got a guy.
And that's on a list. I like it.
Yeah.
So now, when you sit down, right? I sat down with you and you first measured my head. And you told me all about where it should rest, how you go a quarter of an inch or a half an inch longer, so it's not too snug and it fits right. But then you start getting deep with people, right?
Yeah.
So are you a full-on fashion maker, or are you a therapist that makes hat wear? That was the question I was looking forward to answering.
Yeah. I'm just staring to the light. I think it's very cathartic for people to come and have somebody ask them about themselves and why they want something. So for me, I found it special, and I know that like it's not necessarily an affordable thing for everyone, but if you want something made to measure, made for you, you want
special.
Someone is taking the time to come in and say, I want this, I want it to last me a lifetime, or I want it for these events. And I mindfully like to take that into mind and create something with that in like the back of my head. I'm like very, very grateful for the experiences I get through meeting my clients, because it's very silly, but when I do a hat fitting, most of my hat clients at this point end up becoming friends.
Yeah.
And it's not by any means something I seek to do or seek not to do. I love meeting new people. I love adding new people to my life. But I find that there's like a level of understanding that comes with creating something for someone with like what they have in mind for themselves. Like I've made hats for women that have alopecia, where it's a condition where you lose your hair. And they're very mindful about how they look to others, or they're like, you know, I'm 33, so I'm picturing people that have come into me that I consider friends now that are saying, hey, I'm dating, and like, how am I supposed to go out and date when like I don't have hair? or women that are surviving, or breast cancer survivors, and they're wearing wigs and they're uncomfortable and they just want something else just to be like, it looks too fake. I need something to ground it, and it's so fulfilling to me to create that. And it's something I never really thought about when I was originally making hats. I just enjoyed making them and process, but there's a lot of thoughtfulness that goes into why people want hats, and it's something that I'm learning more about as I continue my business and grow my business. And it definitely bonds you with someone when they tell you their deepest insecurities about how they feel just in the world as themselves and what a hat would add to that. And by no means is a hat everything to anyone's life, but within that perspective, for me, it's really engaging, and I take the time, and I really, I'm grateful that people give me the opportunity. It does become like a therapist, because you really do get into things that people don't share with everyone. And then I make them something beautiful, and they come back and we put it on, and they're like, I'm not taking it off, I'm never leaving this anywhere. And they go out and they come back for 3 more, and then they send more friends, and their friends come in, they're like, we don't know what you made for her, but we want one too. And for me, it's like, it's more about like the thoroughness of like how well I paid attention or just listened, which I guess is really like what you're saying, like what a therapist does, you listen. If I listen, take notes, I sketch a few options, I showcase what I think that they're looking for, and then they choose. And it's like, it's a bonding experience, which is why I say a lot of my clients become friends, is because they say something and then they see visually that I heard them through a visual creation. So, yeah, it's a very personal, passionate thing. Maybe it's not that way for every hat designer or person, but for me, I enjoy it. I very much enjoy it. So.
And it's obvious. And it's obvious by when you walk into your studio, and it's not just hat material.
Yeah. It's my lady cave. I love my lady cave.
Beautiful.
It's by no means like meant to be like on Vogue.com, but it's like my lady trap house on the Lower East Side, on the Bowery, in Chinatown. You know, it's like, I feel like all the men that come in are super comfortable there, but it's like for me, it reminds me of like my father's work shed. Like growing up, he had like tools and things and like paintings and like posters of like New Order and like random crap amongst like skis and fishing rods and all of his like architectural tools. He's an architect. Awesome. And it was so cool for me to go in there as a kid and be like, what is all this stuff? And now people come in, they look around my walls and like, what is all this stuff? You know? So it's, I know where it comes from, but I love having the space to facilitate this. You know?
There's also like, when I first went, I'm like, there's an energy in here. Even though I forgot my computer, I was out of breath from walking up the steps. There was a certain
ascending stairs, 3 flights. It's Chinatown, baby. You gotta just like, you gotta go for the gold. You go to the top or nothing.
Yeah. But there's a certain energy in there. And I was so excited to FaceTime with my wife and show her.
I'm so happy that you felt that too, because for me, it's like I really feel that every time I go into my workspace, I'm so like grateful to have it, and it's. It wasn't easy to get to there, and it's not easy to keep right now, pandemic-wise.
What's going on in the world? Your supply chain has been a nightmare as well.
Yeah.
Your Frankenstein hats is one of my favorite lines as well, but you got to do what you got to do, because you can't get what you need to create the hats. But I think that safe space for you going in there, you know, your dad's shop that turns into your shop, that feeling through you listening for people.
Absolutely.
You give that workspace and that energy, and you put it on someone's head, and they're able to facilitate that energy outside, not even knowing it probably, because of the way they open up to you. To have everything you had in that office, to have all those awesome books, you know, and then to have someone's childhood pillowcase that's now going to be the lining of a hat.
Oh yeah.
That's cool. Like, that's not something you'll see at Gorin Brothers. That's not something you'll see at other hat stores. That is
one client in particular that has something very special coming to them. That's, I'm glad you remembered that too. So, yeah, it's really about the details. So, a client provided me with things that reminded me of his childhood and his love and passion for where he grew up in Texas, and like his family and his grandfather being a true cowboy and dope, His name's Doke. He gets a shout.
Excellent.
Doke's hat's gonna be sick. But it's because he trusted me enough to open up and say, this is what I love. This is what made me who I am. And he's like such a happy, beautiful, like bubbly, like his energy is like so inviting and like drawing. So it draws me in as just a human. So it's exciting to be able to create something for a person like that that's like, these are the things that made me me. I want you to make me a hat. So it's like a challenge at the end of the day.
But that energy is also mirrored.
I like the challenge, as I was saying earlier, challenge accepted.
Yep.
You tell me I can't do something.
Watch me do it.
or you give me things that you think don't go together or coincide, I will show you the way and make it happen. Because that at the end of the day is what fulfills me more, and I think that has a lot to do with why I love creating hats and making things for people, is that I'm not doing it on a mass scale because I'm a human. And at the end of the day, I'm not a massive company. I maybe aspire to being larger in many other fields and like doing many things at some point, but I really do enjoy the human level of connection, spirituality, just being in tune with everybody that I work with. You know, from the person I go and pick up materials from, my hat box guy, who I got these beautiful boxes from earlier, Raymond on 30th Street, love them, and Hat Co.
Perfect.
Killer. But it's really, for me, it's about human connection, and I design for a lot of people, and I think what strikes me as different and what I love is that this is something I can keep small scale and grow at my own pace. But it's all handmade. The style is in tune with it and built into it. It's meant to have longevity, you know? And I think that's why I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be interviewed by you guys for Glenrothes. It's like, it's a perfect fit, so it makes sense.
It really is, because if you do it right, you don't have to worry about it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're doing it, I think you're doing it perfectly. And it's our friend JP, how I met you, it's JP's hat, like I said.
Yeah.
I walked in and I saw him wearing that hat. I'm like, that's your hat. Like, I like hats. I like wearing a hat, but I would feel out of place. I would feel uncomfortable putting that hat on my head because it's JP's hat.
You know it's his.
And you're making hats for people that's like, that's your hat. No one else could wear that except you. It's a piece of you.
So in the context of JP he's a phenomenal Japanese bespoke tailored tattoo maker, suit maker by all means, like bespoke suits, but your skin. So
I'm a quarter of the way there. If you can see it poking out a little bit.
A little quarter here.
It's
Don't
working its
lengthen
way.
the sleeves though. Keep them there.
Oh yeah, they're stopping right there.
Yeah. Just got the cufflinks to match the tattoos. And
Exactly.
That's it.
But I always said with JP,
very similar process.
the consultation part with JP was my favorite. Just sitting down,
Yeah.
what I'm going through. Like there's something special with my daughter that I have on my arm.
Yeah.
My daughter was born with a cleft lip, and he incorporated something into the tattoo with it, and it's special.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens, I'm completely confident that I'm always going to love my tattoos the way that I'm always going to love the hat that I'm going to have.
Which we're going to make you something great, which will fit this too. We did the measuring process and.
So excited
from here.
Yeah, and excited
one more
to
sit
have
down and really take it in detail-wise, but
that deep dive is what I'm really looking forward to.
It's the special part. It's really it adds to how far your hat can be yours. So the further down the rabbit hole you go, the better it is.
It's a beautiful thing.
But that goes to the Mad Hatter thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
How far do you want to go?
No.
I've got time. So. And by the hour, we do it.
But it's great. Like I think the key word that you're saying is you listen.
Yeah.
And we're in a place
to learn.
We're in a place in society where everyone's just waiting for their turn to talk, and they're not really listening. So I listen fairly well. My wife would say different.
She seems nice.
She's a sweetheart.
I liked her.
But
she should be here.
Yeah,
baby on knee.
Someone's got to take care of the
also,
Bambina.
that's the Bambina gets a hat too.
Well,
so
I haven't even told Ashley that. I'm very excited to measure.
My mother used to call me Baci as a child, so she says "Mon Baci," like my little kiss.
I love it.
So.
Oh, it's beautiful.
In Italian, it's kiss, but.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So we'll do a
we're
do a daddy and me hat.
I love it.
It was
Absolutely
very fun.
love it. But now it's one, you're passionate about what you do.
I love what I do. It's like ingrained in me, like to the core.
And I think that's most important.
Yeah.
You can't be in a business like this. Jarek with Little Rebel, he loves this business, and it shows. You walk into this place, you walk upstairs,
The
you
space
see this
is
beautiful.
amazing.
Who has a fireplace in New York City that looks like this? You know what I mean?
Cool.
Who has like the crown moldings, like the Victorian style look of it? This is.
No, they put time and energy, and even when I came in today, I was like, what's the thought process behind this? Who created this?
It's an energy.
Special.
Jarek loves this business, and you feel it. The cocktails that we're having, the penicillin, the earlier she had a wine wing whiskey cocktail with cream soda. Who would ever do that? But Brooke obviously loves what she's doing. Yeah. Brooke loves what she's
Brooke's
doing.
on it.
And it's,
she's got it.
You taste the passion, you taste the creativity, you taste the love for this business inside of these drinks. And that's what keeps something to stand up against Father Time. That's what makes your hat last. Hopefully your hat will get passed on to someone else in your life. You know, it's a huge thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Inshallah, obviously. I hope so. I'd be very, very happy to see that happen.
Now,
also, Brooke, thank you.
Thank you very much, Brooke. She's registering out. We're giving you a lovely shout out. Thank you, Brooke.
Yeah.
So now you've done your homework. You've sat down. You know the style of hat it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know the materials they're going to use from this person's life, right? What's your creative process? What's your playlist like? What's the setting out of it?
Yeah.
What's the level of the lights on? Describe your creative process now.
All right, so I'm in the zone. I've sat down with this person. Say if it was you. So we sit down, we do a fitting. I measure you first off so we don't get super caught up and forget to measure each other because I'm like, I gotta get in there, figure this out, measure you. From there, figure out what's the general shape you want. What are you looking for? Where are you looking to wear this? What's the end goal of what you would love this hat to add to your everyday or not your everyday? Maybe it's something you want for an event. And then from there, we've talked about colors, materials, textures, things you really like, things you don't, things that make you you. I love deep diving into people's music, honestly. I think that has a lot, like at least heart-wise, to see what you add to somebody's hat. But also even like creatively, if you're just like, oh, I really am drawn to like this artist, or this is something I'm really interested in now. Like I love this study of like culinary something, you know, like this is your specific thing you love cooking, you know, and you're like, I'm gonna do massive pots of paella, and this is my summer thing. I'm figuring it out. It's like, you want to be the barefoot contestant, go for it. And then I would like help you do that.
Yeah.
But what's the hat for that, you know? So I just try to create and make things based on what people say and lead me to, and I just try to ask the right questions, like as you asked me the right questions. So it's nice to engage in this on the opposite side of it through an interview. Doesn't happen that often, so I don't know how well I'm doing, but I appreciate the opportunity.
I think you're doing amazing.
Thanks.
Personally, it's so much
cool.
information. It's so cool
Thank
to hear
you.
from it.
Yeah, it also helps you're easygoing. And, like,
Thank you.
But your hat's gonna be sick. I think you already know that.
I'm very excited.
And yeah, there's a lot of love and passion that goes into it, but it's really just I ask a lot of questions. And I go silent, I take my notes, and I tell people, like, I'm gonna be doing my own thing and just jotting down random things. It looks like chaos, like cave drawings across the board on like multiple sheets of paper. And then what I do is I compile them into further condensed notes, and then from there, I organize them more. And I come up, yeah, exactly. You figure out exactly what the right things are for the right time of explaining like the sketch and like whatever I'm creating.
Yeah.
And I fine tune it and make 5 or 6 options, and then email them and like submit them with like detailed responses. But they're all hand drawn, and I think part of that comes back to like my father's an architect and a historical restorer, and
you have to be very on point with your drawings with that as well.
I watched him hand draft every drawing plan he's ever done for every client, and
awesome.
He has a draftsman's table, so I grew up next to that, and I think seeing him do that, and he still does that. He uses CAD, he knows how to use it, but he prefers to hand draft, and there's something so beautiful and like charming and lovely about pen, like your mind to pen or pencil to paper, that I think translates much more fluidly than through a computer to create what you want. And I'm not saying computers are bad.
I typed out every question, but I still had to write them in this notebook.
Yeah, so
because
you do both.
it registers in a different way when you write it down.
It does. And maybe not for everyone. And when the computer works, great, awesome. But so I hand draft things in the same way my father did. And I think it's a special thing I learned from him, and watching how his mind works, it trained me to have my mind work in a very similar way.
And an
which I'm very
organic lesson
grateful
too, which is cool.
Yeah. But it also comes so naturally and so easily that I just whip a sketch out like.
And I saw your
done.
sketchbook. It was really cool seeing. But even like, I don't feel like you have a distinctive style in terms of your hat making, because when you look around this room, like.
Kind of across the board.
This, you know, but it's awesome. Like, and I understand that it all comes down to the molds with the crown of it and the brim. But would you say you had a distinct style?
I think I like to see how far my mind can take me.
Awesome.
So within that, there are certain things I'm drawn to more than others, but I also don't ever say no to something, because it's the same thing of saying, I still like to learn about new things.
Yeah.
So
you're gonna find something out.
Yeah.
Even if it's not something that's gonna like fire up, maybe I'll learn something along the way.
But there's definitely certain things I've learned from making custom hats for certain people that has brought me onto a whole new style of making or creating something that I'm very happy with learning. And you know, it's more just I'm continually learning in what I do. I'm not working for someone where it's just like, this is what you do every day, task done. You know, I actually feel fulfilled and like I'm doing something that matters to one person, which, you know, I'll take that. It doesn't need to matter to a million people at this point. I would love to do more for more people, but at this point I'm very happy with the fact that I can see one-on-one what I do makes a difference and is enjoyed.
Absolutely. And I think it answers the question that I had next. And I was going to ask what your favorite part of the creative process is. So I understand it's learning and where the hat's going to take you, and where the relationship with the person you're making the hat for is going to take you. But now, when that's made, what's your favorite part after that? Is it you sitting down and looking at them like, that's their hat, she's gonna love this, he's gonna love this, or is it the first look of them putting it on or them seeing the hat?
It's that. It's 100% that. Hell yeah, that. They're like, oh, fuck yeah, like this is the best. Like there's, like, I've been shocked. Like I've had like ladies in Tribeca that have like cursed and be like, this is the shit. Like, I'm like,
I'm glad I broke that character out of you.
And she's like, but like, don't tell anyone I said that. Like, you know. No, I think it's really special to know, like, I fall asleep at night knowing like I'm the creator of my own stress within owning my own business, and
your boss
it's all on me. I'm the worst. My own asshole. I'm the worst asshole to myself. So yeah, in whatever way we want to phrase that. Yes. Yes. But I am very happy to be able to fall asleep at night being like, whatever good decisions, bad decisions I make, they're my decisions. They're no one else's. So I'm not doing this for anyone else, company-wise, business-wise. Like, I'm making all these choices for myself, and I think it's like a really special thing. It's also very stressful at the same time. But
to be a creator, a business owner, and
it freaks me out a lot, you know. But these are good problems, and I think that good problems have better solutions. So
I think you'd be very weird if it didn't freak you out, because
like, that's fine.
you have every right. Yeah.
It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Do you have a syringe for this?
All good. Everything's fine.
Amazing.
Yeah. No, I'm very happy with what I do.
I think that you're very good at what you do. I think that by the love that you have in the room, you're very good at what you do, because you have a lot of support in it.
Yeah.
You're producing a one-of-a-kind product that is speaking to someone's soul, that is giving them that comfort. The guy on the couch from Spider-Man, it builds my confidence. You're doing it on such a hyper upstyle level, and you're using all of history.
I feel it. I do feel it though. It's like it's a confidence thing. It's like I feel like I've put in enough to know like what I'm doing is good and will grow. So I'm confident in what I do. I love what I do, and I love that I do in New York. So
and
in the city for it.
And in the time of New York, in probably the most difficult time of New York.
Yeah. Everything has been difficult in general for most of New York, but this has been a little extra spicy. So it's
there's never been a mass exodus of New York like there was during the pandemic. So to keep your business open, to keep your studio open, to keep your clients happy, to make your Frankenstein hats because of your supply chain issues, and for people to love them just as much as they would love anything else.
And the Frankenstein hats basically mean like the material supply chain closed. I wasn't able to get all my stuff from Europe. All my felts, couldn't import them, couldn't get them. They closed. The factory where I work out of, the stretch and mold, there's a lot of people that are older that I respect and love and admire as my own family, my own blood, and there was no sense in getting anyone else sick. It's stupid, so figure it out. I have a lot of scraps. Apparently I'm a hoarder, but I hoarded for the right reasons. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with all this stuff. And then the pandemic happens and I was making Frankenstein hats out of felt, straw, just like hand sewing stuff together, and it became more unique, one of a kind, and
you learned to adapt.
Maybe we'll add one of those hats to this at some point.
I love it. Yeah.
But they were special. They required a little bit more creative thought and energy for me to develop and do, and really love that process.
And again, learning,
really
adapting.
Like turn it to see how far you can turn it up before you blow the speaker out.
Yeah.
You know? What can you do?
But seeing some of them, I think they were pretty awesome. And going back to that 39th Street place, what was the name of that building? So my sister-in-law that I told you about, Emily, she was using them. So I was telling her about you this weekend.
So you found out finally. Oh, amazing.
Yes.
So the my New York loves, my men, my Valentines, my people, my humans, like people I think more highly of them than literally anyone else in the world. It's called Abrizio. It's a hat making factory that was based on 39th Street for many, many decades. They moved. As many things happen in gentrify, Midtown, the garment district, going its way. So I helped pack and wrap and air dust with masking goggles before needed, like 5 years ago. And I photoed some of the molds, like a lot of their molds. And it was just for the sole purpose of I really love what they do, and I love being part of the process, and I'm very grateful for them. And like just wanted to make sure that they didn't have to like have more work when they got to the next space of like unpack and everything's broken, then we have to like add caulk and like sand stuff down and like get more laborious. Just like let's just wrap them and do it right and put them out. And I'm really happy that they allowed me to help, and it made me feel more in tune with them, and like I could have like me as like a female in like a man zone of like a process that's like very man oriented.
As you said, not many political correct words being thrown around when
it's better,
but I also
like
over there.
Honestly, like particularly for me, that makes me feel right at home. I prefer when people can have fun and poke fun at things, and like almost in like a comedic sense. Like if you can laugh about like everything a comedian says, like if you know there's no harm implied, I don't think there's any harm lost. And I feel
Specifically when it's coming from a
uncomfortable
place
when
of love, though.
yes, I feel uncomfortable when people overly place energy or intention on negativity of anything present day that's bad, like race, religion, sexual orientation, and they might hate me for this, but like I love the fact that they just speak freely and they love everyone and they poke fun and like everyone's in love and having like no love is lost. You know, and like I'm not gonna repeat anything that they say, but I really do love the fact that they are so honestly themselves and so genuinely themselves and they're so not caught up in what everyone else fucking cares about or like does. Sorry.
By all,
But like,
let them rip.
But they're so important and instrumental in my growth as a designer and a person.
And there's
as a human, more than really anyone else in my life. And lately I haven't spent as much time there, but I am, because I'm figuring it out, working as much as I can.
You're finally
I'm
being able to catch
preoccupied.
up, right? Yeah.
I'm catching up. But I would say that I owe a lot of fucking thank yous and gratitude and appreciative cookies, coffees, you know, mini champagne splits at Christmas, whatever I get these guys, like, man, they're like family.
Amazing.
So
hopefully they like whiskey. We'll
yeah.
give them a little gift.
Abrizio loves whiskey. But they're in Bushwick now. They hand make hats. They make hats for every major designer that doesn't want to shout them out. I have no problem doing it because just because I make something there, it's like you're only as good as your next best idea. So Abrizio makes hats for the masses, for everyone, and I work through them, and that's how I'm able to create what I do and what I sustain and what I love. So the grace of them allowing me the opportunity. So Abrizio's in Bushwick. They're on Barrett and Bogart, near Roberta's. If you ever want a pizza there, stop by. They do custom hats as well.
Honey and pepperoni from Roberta's.
Yep. Sausage, add the sausage.
But I was blown away when I was telling my
yeah, you knew it was right around the corner from
But
your father had
the Boar's Head routes.
the trucking routes.
It's classic.
The truckers routes, the factories and things. They're literally right in the middle of the trucking routes. The Boar's Head trucking station is on the corner, and they're like, yep, you know what we want? Right here, in the middle of the trucking routes in Bushwick. So,
if you want to go classic old school New York, you start talking about routes and whatnot.
Yeah.
My dad had a Wise Potato Chip route. You also have Utz, but then you had the big dogs of the world, which is Boar's Head and Wonder Bread. Those are the routes that you want, and those generate the most money. So you're in a good area for routes and whatnot.
No, you can get all your things.
When I told my sister-in-law the story that you were telling me about 39th Street and moving on out, and who they had for story, and how you were dusting off these like beautiful molds that are probably 50 years old.
No,
like,
some of these molds hadn't seen the light of day for like 80 years. Like,
and now they're salvaged and they're being used again.
But like, this much dust. This is like, I don't know how many decades of dust this is, but some of the molds were sitting so far back on these shelves that like they had 2 to 3 inches of dust.
That's history.
Crazy.
That's flavor.
Asthma.
Yeah, also true.
So, asthma, masks, goggles. It's crazy.
But she said the name right away. As soon as I started telling the story, she knew them.
Abrizio.
She used they made her hats for her, which was amazing.
Yeah. So that's the thing is they were like, hey, hat making's tough. Do you want to do it? They probably don't want to do this. Like, it's like a lot of effort. So yeah. Get the fuck out of my way. Like, I want to do it.
Watch this.
But like, it took years to earn their trust, their respect, and they let me do whatever the fuck I want. And I'm so grateful for that because it's like, I walk in, I'm like, hi, I'm gonna make 4 or 5 hats, and they're like,
do what you gotta
do. Whatever, you know? And it's not like that for everybody. And I don't know if they'd probably like to hear that. but I think I've been like indoctrinated into like a family of New York things and factories and people that really mean a lot to me.
Community.
Gave me everything I have. I could have gone in many different directions of what I create and make. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten hats if they hadn't allowed me the opportunity, but I think because I kept showing up and wanted to do it, I didn't bug them or piss them off. I think that's the general gist is, if you don't annoy them, you're good. Carte blanche. Just be a good person, show up, be easygoing.
It sounds very easy.
Do it all.
Not a lot of people can do that.
No, a lot of people don't. And a lot of people definitely don't do that with a lot of different places in the fashion industry. Everyone's got their thing.
Everyone can be passionate, but I don't think people don't understand what it is to earn dues anymore.
Yeah.
And you definitely sound like you earned your dues.
Yeah, less of the fashion part, but just more of the human aspect. I appreciate just one-on-one contact, and I think that's really like how you build relationships. That's how you do anything, and also like within drinks and cocktails, going out, like that's how you meet people in New York City.
People forgot how to have fun, and this is how we have fun. You wear a beautiful custom-made hat from Alessandra, and then you go out and you have a lovely cocktail in a New York bar.
Yeah, someone asks you about the hat, someone engages you,
and it's all full
doors.
circle. So to wrap it all up, it's supporting local, it's supporting passion, and I think our pillars of the Glenrothes is knowledge, courage, community, and opportunity. Your knowledge from the homework that you've done that brought you into this beautiful world of hat making. The courage you had to say, I know you're telling me I can't do it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Your passion stemmed from that courage, which built an amazing community around you, which built opportunities to sell these amazing hats at your store. So how would someone book an appointment with you at that store as we close on off? Where does one find you? Where does one set up an appointment? How do we get it done?
I'm in New York City. I'm based here. So you can find me on my website, alessandrarivera.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Alessandra_Rivera_hats on Instagram. Or email. Just do Alessandra@alessandrarivera.com.
Perfect. I think this was a perfect inaugural episode of Casket Classics.
Hell yeah!
Thank you very much for being our first guest.
I'm very excited to finish your hat and see the end of the process.
I can't wait.
It's gonna be sick.
Very excited.
You're gonna see it and you're gonna hug and like we're gonna do like a serious hug. This is gonna be so good.
I look forward to it.
Hell yeah.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you very much to Jarek and the team at Little Rebel. Thank you very much to Brooke Smith for your beautiful
Brooke crushed it. This penicillin.
Guys, please support local. Go out, have fun, wear a big old hat, embrace your community, embrace everyone around you, and look beyond into these deeper dives to find out who you are and why you should be wearing a lovely hat like this. But cheers. Thank you very much.